All right, folks, we are live with the Remodelers on the Rise show. Never done a podcast recording in my basement before. Does my background look good, Anthony?
That looks beautiful.
It does look pretty nice. That's a world map over here.
There you go.
I had that sickness where you kind of had to quarantine from people, and so I've been down here. I'm pretty much a free bird now. After this session, actually, I'm going to be moving my stuff back to my office this afternoon. And today, so that was that too much information? Do people need to know all of that, Anthony?
They absolutely do. So they know
Okay.
you.
Yes, yes. And it's my show. So if I want to talk about where I'm located and why I'm here, who's going to stop me? But now that I'm done with that,
Hmm.
I do have a guest with me today, Anthony Boyd Remodeling and Construction, out in beautiful Boise, not Boise, Boise,
Boise.
Boise,
You said it right.
Idaho. Idaho. Anthony is a longtime client. Back in the day, we did some one-on-one work together. More recently, this past year, he's been an active member in the VIP club and will be part of the VIP club for this upcoming year as well. And I thought, Anthony, I would love to interview you, have you kind of share your story, your journey. In particular, what does it take to make consistent progress? And I have found that when remodelers are able to just kind of tell their story, where they've been, where they are, where they're going, it can often be encouraging and inspiring to other remodelers who are listening. So thank you for being willing to share your story today.
Yeah, no problem.
So the story begins where? How far back do you want to take this little history of you or your business? I'll give you just kind of an open palette there. Do you want
Sure.
to just maybe give a little bit of here's kind of how I started my business and just to give us a little history of things, and then kind of here's where I'm at right now as far as employees and revenue, and then I'll start asking some particulars.
Okay, perfect. I think a lot of times when you're starting out and you see and you hear people or business owners talk about their business and their structure, and it just seems so far fetched that you would ever get there.
Mm,
So I remember I am a little more of a visionary, but it's funny as become more productive as we get better, my vision grows. So
mm,
when I first started out, my vision was just like, man, if I could somehow make $70,000, like, woo, that would be awesome. Like it was such a small vision.
yeah,
And then to see that, there's businesses with structures and people under them is like, I mean, that would be cool, but I have no idea how I could
it
possibly
was
ever
just
get
far. It was
there.
just far fetched. It was kind of like,
Yeah, it seemed like, well, those guys were lucky or they're, am I still here?
yeah, you're
Yeah.
good.
Okay.
It just,
Uh,
yep.
okay. So that was the mentality of starting.
Mm,
And so really the turning point to me, and it's not just to boost your ego, but I tell people this all the time, like, hey, what was the turning point for you? And I remember it was like I was just so sick of tired of working for $25 an hour and not paying my bills and figuring out, what do I do next? And so it started with internet searching, and that's when I ran across you, and I got to chatting with you, and hired you as a coach from the very first time. And
yeah.
that's where we're doing our one-to-ones. And so, from that point forward, it was a slow process. I look back and I'm like, man, I could have sped that thing up quickly, but it was just a very slow process for me of implementing stuff and making changes, to get where we are today. Now, now that I have the ability to actually work on the business a lot more. The snowball's bigger and it moves much faster.
Mm,
But so just starting out, yeah, I was a carpenter. I had from 2010, I had some help, some carpenters with me, but we just go job to job. Wouldn't even pull a profit really. It was just basically paying me a wage of
yep.
25, $30 an hour, and just making their wages. And then up until the time I met you, that's when I started to develop a business. And so, 2017, 2018 is really where, when people ask me, when did your business start? Well, it actually started in, 2005, but I didn't become a businessman until, 2016,
Mm,
2017. And so, the key hires along the way, or the things that really took off for me were, getting another qualified carpenter on there to allow me to go out and do sales, to put off some stuff that direction. Um, and then, the next thing from there would be a part-time bookkeeper. So at that point, my wife was still doing all of the bookkeeping for us, but the sales had gone up. Once I was allowed to sell and have the time to do it, sales, doubled, and my wife couldn't keep up anymore. And so getting a part-time bookkeeper helped. And so at that point, that's when the snowball started to
Mm.
take
So
effect.
yeah, so let's kind of go back in time a little bit of I think early on what you realize is, one, you're kind of sick of the way things were going. I'm
Mhm.
seeing other people who've seemed to quote unquote have this figured out. I'm not charging, marking up anything on materials and labor. I basically have a glorified job instead of a proper business. And for years, you just really didn't understand how to even approach that, how to even do it. But you got to the point where you're like, look, I'm either going to figure this out, get some outside coaching and help so I can gain some knowledge and clarity, or I need to go and do something totally different. Because I think that's important for people to hear. Like, when you get to, sometimes you got to look yourself in the mirror and kind of be real with yourself and be like,
Mhm.
is this it? Is this what you're going to do? Is this, you're happy with things the way they are? You're not desiring to really learn and grow and to take some risk and to move the ball forward? If so, then don't whine about it. But if you have a drive and you have a desire to do something more, sometimes you got to kick into action and make some investments, right?
Oh yeah.
So I think that's important for people to kind of realize and hear. So whether that is you're sick of this business where you have 3 employees and you're just stuck and money's coming in, and at the end of the day there's not enough there, eventually you got to look in the mirror and say, enough is enough. I'm going to figure this out, because the resources and the knowledge and the ability for you to do it is there. And I think that was a huge thing for you.
Yeah, and we live in a great time.
Mm,
20, 30 years ago, I can't imagine what it'd be like to try to figure this all out. But
yeah.
through Facebook groups, through the VIP group we're in, through uh, all these different avenues, just get information. You don't have to learn the hard way. You can ask questions and get information. And the key to all of it is just implementation.
Yeah. The key to all of it is implementation. Bailey, if you're watching this, write that down. That should be a quote from this when we link to this recording. But what you said earlier, it was kind of a slow, but it was steady. Some people rip through it quickly and
Mhm.
boom, they look up and, 6 months later, 12 months later, they got this in place. Other times it goes a little bit slower. Yours was a little bit slower, but the whole time it was consistent and steady, and it was progress. Okay, I've got this part in. All right, I'm going to keep tweaking this. Let me move on to the next thing. So what it takes to make consistent progress is, one, the desire to improve, two, to reach out and find the resources so that you can gain in learning, and then the biggest thing, what you said, is you have to consistently implement. Too many people analyze it, and you got to get out there and try that new sales approach. Try to charge for design and development. Try to charge more for your work. You got to implement it, and as you start implementing it, it really takes off. So let me kind of, now that we got a little history of where you
Mhm.
are, let me organize this conversation around kind of core pillars of the business. It's a big
Okay.
thing we talk about in the VIP club, is there's core pillars in the business. This upcoming year in 2023, we're going to be covering 6 core pillars, and I want to go through each of those 6 for you to kind of share, what were the key parts in each of those pillars that made a difference for you. By the way, if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, if you listen to the recording, you better reach out quick if you're interested in the VIP club, because we'll see if there's some spots available still. But if you're watching this, it is a good week to make a decision on the VIP club. I bet you there's going to be a comment with a link to it. So one of the core pillars is financials. Walk through your progression when it comes to understanding your financials, understanding how you're charging for your work, and things of that nature.
Yeah, when I first started, you were telling me you gotta charge more. You gotta mark up stuff, and
I
and,
said
and
that.
oh yeah,
Oh,
and so just to get from reference to other people, I started at like $300,000 a year in sales, um, which doesn't leave a lot of room for any kind of profit.
yeah.
And so for me, um, you know, I worked hard on the sales, but I didn't understand financials. I didn't truly understand what overhead was or what categories went overhead. I didn't understand, cost of goods sold. I didn't understand any of those things. And so, education in all areas of business. but especially financials are important. And so understanding what those things mean, not only understanding it, but figuring out a way to get the correct numbers in them.
I remember early on of just basic studying of your profit and loss statement. Here's top line revenue. These are your cost of goods sold. Wait, what's included in cost of goods sold? And then we have our gross profit. After that, we've got our overhead expenses. That leaves your net profit. By the way, you're taking your owner draws out of net profit. So keep that in mind. And just really by you leaning into asking questions, understanding, studying how the P&L statement works and how markup ties in with that, and how when we start charging more, there's more revenue, but there's also more gross profits, which allows you to take on more overhead expenses and invest in the business. I remember just piece by piece again. And I think do you think people get stuck sometimes because they get overwhelmed by it and they just want to kind of curl up in the corner and not talk about it?
Yeah, and I'm sure there's certain personalities that to look at financials more than
Yeah.
others, and I'm one of those that I don't like spreadsheets by nature. I see it all organized, and I'm like, ugh, it just drives me crazy. So, but I've learned to like it and look at it
Hmm.
and understand it. So for me, it's something that I had to force to do.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, Jim made a comment 30 years ago. You mentioned that 30 years ago, remodeling was run in a very small vacuum. That's true. Like maybe you find a local, mentor you could talk to, but Anthony, to your point, it's a lot easier to find these resources. People don't have excuses not to figure out how to do their financials, to understand sales process, which is a nice benefit of the year that we live in.
mhm.
So you used to, how have you approached how you charge for your work? Have you just continued to increase your markup? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, for me, it was just throwing a markup against the wall because not having any idea.
Mm,
And the real key is to get just a little bit of breathing room with some cash. Um, if you don't have any kind of cash, you're always going to be in trouble. So, without knowing what my papers should be, um, sorry,
is somebody not realizing that you're on one of the top rated podcasts in
that
all of the remodeling industry?
I did have a carpenter come in and start chatting to the
Did you
estimator.
snap your
I
finger at him?
did. Did you hear that?
Yes, I heard it.
Okay,
Nothing
sorry.
gets by me. So
Um,
basically, you're like, dude, I'm on
yeah,
a
like,
live.
don't.
Tell them you're on a live show. You're a guest on a podcast right now. He's
I
gonna have to
would,
get
I
lost.
would, but they left the room. So,
Okay.
did you see the power of that snap?
It was I also
I
saw that the eyes that you gave him.
okay. So I lost my train of thought.
It was related to financials, and early on, you're like, I don't know, I'm just going to throw a
Yeah,
number next to it. And
yeah.
as you went, you started studying what your overhead expenses are, what your
S-
top line revenue is.
so yeah. At first, I was just throwing a number on there because I needed more money. And now we have a very specific. Like today, or actually yesterday, we refined it. We moved a project manager. We've been charging for jobs, but it just didn't make sense. So we moved him overhead. So we had to redo everything to figure out what our
Mm,
correct markup would be. And so that's something I never would have known before or how to figure it out. So
yeah.
there's a lot that goes into that too. And we talked about my revenue raising a lot at first. That's great, but my problem was I didn't have near the backing on the overhead side in the office to effectively run jobs to get them in on time and on budget. And
Mm,
so um, I needed to add more overhead, which was scary because I'm like, I don't know if I have the money, but how am I ever going to produce jobs on time and on budget without having the back end of office work to do it? So
yeah.
those things were key for me
Yeah.
also.
Yeah. So related to that core pillar, and then I got one more thought on it, and then we'll move on to the next core pillar. The progress that you've made there is one, really leaning in and understanding your numbers, getting rid of your tendency to not want to study spreadsheets to the point now where you understand the importance of them and you want to kind of dig into it. And then what you just mentioned is we're reviewing our overhead expenses and our numbers for this upcoming year and really creating a budget for this upcoming year so that we can plan out our year. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. And if we can plan out our year ahead and know what our overhead expenses are, what our net profit goal is, a lot of that can come into place instead of just, we'll just kind of see what happens. Money will
Hmm.
come in, money will come out. No, that's not how we run a professional remodeling business. Um, we dug into this a lot when we did our in-person VIP club meeting back in May of last year. That was all on financials. And one of the things that I really highlighted and we looked at was related to job costing. On a scale of 1 to 10, Anthony Boyd, 1 being pitiful, 10 being amazing, how solid are you with your job costing, sir?
8.
Okay.
We've got some things to clean up. Just from the aspect of making it quicker to do. So
Yeah.
we still have the ability to do it now. It just takes, because we don't have it quite lined up in co-construct. And so, in my review last week with my CPA, she's like, you really should have your project manager, stamping things onto your receipts instead of your bookkeeper trying to figure it out. That would eliminate a lot of your problems. So I'm like, okay, because they get miscategorized into the job costs, and
Yeah.
so some items would be red, some would be green, and then we'd have to go through and manually kind of do it. And so we have the numbers; it would just take longer to get into it. And we're trying to look at jobs pretty regularly, and the PM's job is to bring it in on time. So he's looking at those costs, pretty
Yeah.
much daily as he buys or hires
So
trades and that
for
kind of thing.
people listening to this, they should have heard a couple things. A professional remodeler is meeting with their CPA to review the previous year's notes. How do we make consistent progress? We have meetings. We find areas that still need to be shored up, like the example you just gave of why are we doing it this way? It's clunkier, it takes more time, and it makes it harder to get the reports that we need. And the big question is, if you want to make consistent progress, are you going to take action and implement that improvement and that change? And that's something that you continue to do, and that remodelers listening to this, that's the name of the game. It is about identifying areas of weakness and working to implement it. Not super complicated, but not easy either. So consistent progress. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's not hard, but it is difficult.
Yeah. Would you say being part of the VIP club and having regular meetings has helped with holding your butt accountable to get these things done?
Yeah, accountability is key, for sure.
Yeah.
And that's you asked me earlier to talk about, what is important about the VIP, and accountability is the number one thing.
Hmm. Yeah, and knowing that you're setting clear goals that we're going to be able to talk about, that you have a resource and a group of remodelers that you can chat with. I'm always hesitant to just promote it. I'm kind of like, let's just tell Anthony's story, but we do have to weave in the
Sure.
brilliance of the VIP club mixed in there. Bailey's listening to this, going, just promote the VIP club, Kyle. I'm like, people will get the message. Anthony is making progress in his business as a result of the VIP club. If you would like to, you can as well. Let's go on to another core pillar, the sales process. As far as making progress on this, when you look back on the progress you've made related to your sales process, what is one thing that kind of jumps out at you the most as far as kind of having the most impact for you? I have an answer for you if you're stumbled.
Let's see. Can you repeat the question one more time?
So when it comes to your sales process, what are one or two things that you've implemented over the years that's
Okay.
made the biggest impact in improving your sales process?
Well, number one, having a system. When I think about, I would like to hire a salesperson by the end of this year.
Hmm.
That is not going to happen if you don't have a system. So, there's a system of how it happens from the very first phone call down to the signing a contract, and that can be redone by somebody else, so they'll know what to do. So the system is a big deal, but just being comfortable in it. So I think it was Kobe that said, "I've never been nervous in a game because I've done it 1,000 times before, and it's just doing it again."
Mm.
And that's how I feel about the phone calls in the sales process.
Yeah, I like that. And the first part, whether it's a system or kind of the process, those 5 powerful words, this is how we work, right? Just step by step. And that is something that you've made tremendous progress on. Instead of just picking up the phone and, I don't know, talking about the questions that come to mind, actually having a process that you're following, sending out an email between the initial phone call and the in-person meeting, being able to present to the homeowner, this is how we work step by step and how we charge for design and development. That's been really, really key for you.
Yeah, I got
Cool.
I got one more thing on
Yeah,
that that's
please.
helped me out a lot. So having someone else answer the phones, not
Mm,
even pre-screening at this point, but just getting some basic information, and then sending them directly to a Calendly calendar to make an appointment with me for even that initial first phone call.
Yeah.
So
Where'd
that
you come up with
has
that Calendly idea?
one of your podcasts, Kyle.
True. Let's just say it could have been the VIP club. Let's just say it was a VIP club meeting.
Okay.
So that
It was a
people are like,
VIP meeting.
another great idea that came out of the VIP club. Okay. So core pillar of financials, core pillar of the sales process. What about marketing in particular? We focused on that core pillar for the third quarter of the year in the VIP club. What's your current kind of approach on the marketing front? What do you have in place, and what are you excited about related to this pillar?
Yeah, we're starting to gain quite a bit of traction in social media realms. We're doing a lot more, videos and that kind of thing. So we're not necessarily getting people contacting us from social media as like, hey, we saw you on social media, but it definitely helps in that brand awareness. But when they're in the decision of like, who are we going to hire? If there's pages of great content online, it's just another uh,
Feather in the cap.
feather in the cap.
Yeah.
So
And
we
differentiator.
spent a lot of time and money on that last year. We raised our budget another, I think, $12,000 this year for marketing budget. And so I would like to raise it even more, but we'll look at next 2024 as maybe raising it again. So we've got a decent amount of budget. I think we're around 43,000 for marketing next year.
Okay.
But still, the best is still, you know, other trades, designers, architects,
Strategic partners.
The strategic partners are still the number one, and for the most part, it's free. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, we have a marketing plan in place. We've sat down as a team and gone over it. Sat down and gone over what our social media plan is for next year. So, once those things are in place, it's easier to implement and check every quarter and see if we're on pace.
In the VIP club, when we did the marketing, who from your team attended those meetings? The marketing ones?
Brandy and Emily.
Yeah, Brandy and Emily. So Anthony wasn't even on those meetings. That's one of the benefits of the VIP club is if there's training specifically that would be helpful that day or that month related to one of your team members, they can participate. And the two of them attended each of those marketing sessions, crafted the overall marketing plan, attached kind of the action steps and the budget to it, where you guys are really organized when it comes to the marketing side. And it warms my heart when you just quoted me. You might have made it up. I don't think you did, though. $43,000 on marketing. You can't be that precise without knowing your numbers. And that is a huge aspect of continuing to make consistent progress in your business is you've got to pay attention to those numbers. And then when you see that marketing number, you guys have a plan attached to that. This is how we're going to invest these dollars based on what we've seen as results in the past and what we know is going to work to build know, like, and trust with our ideal prospects. And I love that your team has kind of stepped up with that.
Yeah, and as a business owner, what else is nice too is to have a full plan in place, and I'm just reviewing it, tweaking it.
Yeah.
I'm not developing, I'm not putting it together by myself, and so getting somebody else on the team to do it that knows what we want, and me just okay it and go over it. It frees up so much time.
Yep, love it. So we got Anthony Boyd here, Boyd Remodeling Construction in Boise, Idaho, and the title of our conversation today is "What does it take to make consistent progress?" And hopefully, you're hearing some nuggets of wisdom and knowledge of kind of hearing his story of where he's been, how he got things kind of revved up into first gear, into second gear, into third gear, and we've also just gone around the horn to these key core pillars of his business: financials, sales process, marketing. We're about to go into a different one right now. And just kind of how he's made progress in it and what the results have been. And a little bit of along the way of talking about Anthony has been part of the VIP club in 2022. He's signed up to be part of it in 2023. And that's been very helpful for him to get his team involved in training and just to have encouragement, good ideas, a plan in place, accountability, etc. And you could also be part of the VIP club coming up. Go to remodelersontherise.com and then click on VIP Club. Cool. Another core pillar that I wanted you to kind of share how you've made progress on is just related to the team. And you shared a little bit earlier a couple key hires that you made. somebody to early on to really take on some of that hands-on work, which freed you up to spend more time on the office and on the sales front. You also talked about a bookkeeper. What was you had a hire that you made, or kind of a shift of responsibility this past year? Maybe talk about that a little bit, because there's some additional workload and responsibility that's been on your shoulders that you're working to hand off to another team member. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So for us specifically, design has always been probably our downfall or the hardest thing to get
Hmm.
fixed. And so um, that has probably been the best thing that's happened, in the last year. So we did have someone that we hired as a carpenter that we moved in, and uh, he's been phenomenal at the design side.
Hmm.
And so it's fixed a lot of our problems. So currently, he learned chief architect. He's really good at it now. We're going to give him some more training. Um, the product selection we still are hiring out to trade partners, but that has made the foundation of the design go so much better.
Hmm. And that was an internal hire, and kind of moving them from one seat of the bus to another. And I think the other thing that we always have to be evaluating, and that's what you really saw for you, is, man, that design and development part is really a bottleneck for your business. And you've tried, that's one that didn't come super easy to figure out. You had some outside design help. You've tried a few different things, and now you finally have somebody in that role that's going to help. We always have to be, when we think about our team, one, we always have to be managing our team, checking in with them, continuing to show them how they can continue to improve. And one of the things that you did after the in-person events in the fall through the VIP club, we talked a lot about DISC. We did some training beforehand. All of the owners that are part of the VIP club took the DISC training. And then when you got more training on DISC, you decided to have your entire team take it, and then also you had some of their significant others, if they wanted to, their spouses, take it. Why did you decide to invest some more time and money into DISC, and what did you kind of learn from that?
So I was hesitant at first for a variety of reasons. Some of them personal, of like,
Yeah, personality
kind of,
test.
yeah. I mean, like just you know, be nicer and figure it out. And so there was some hesitation, but it was nice just to get a basic assessment of personalities. And the whole goal is we do have a very wide mixture of personalities. And so coming back, I thought it'd be great just for me to see how to communicate with each one a little better.
Mm,
Um, and then we presented it at a team meeting, and I think for each team member to be able to see, how do I interact with that member better. And so as far as the spouses, not my idea at all.
mhm.
What had happened was, people got their assessments back, and they're like, this is really cool. I had no idea. And so they actually came to me and was like, hey, can we do our spouses? And
It's
like, sure,
dangerous.
sure, yeah. So um, uh,
All marriages are still intact?
all are stronger than ever, Kyle.
Okay. Wow. That's interesting. So you've been able to see the team, not necessarily the spouses, that part, but the team in the office and out in the field. There's just been a lot more eye-opening aspect of, okay, the reason he or she responds that way is because of kind of the way that they think about problems or situations. Okay, I can see how this person is a lot more detail oriented, and how I approach them is going to be different. This person likes to have all the information up front. You were able to see, through analyzing the disc, a little bit more insight and clarity on how to work well with each other.
Yeah, I mean, we're
It's
still
cool.
at the beginning stages of it,
Yep.
but I do foresee, 2 3 years down the road that it being really really valuable instead of
Yeah.
just intriguing and kind of valuable.
Yeah, when we had Monica Forward, was one of our guest speakers at the in-person event, and she kind of hit that of like, look, this is something that you really have to study, you really have to review, you have to go back and study and understand and do some updated training. So it's not kind of yeah, we did it one time and it's good. The more we kind of incorporate this into our company meetings and continue to learn, the better, and the more results we're gonna get from it. Cool. And then the last pillar that I wanted to ask you about is related to kind of mindset of our attitude, our confidence level, our mindset. How do you think about that, and what's your mindset and kind of your vision for your business going forward? What is that looking like for you?
Currently, I'm in a great mindset.
Why is that?
Because things are coming together. We've got systems in place.
Mm,
It's manageable. Um, things things will always, and no matter what business, probably have problems and things fall apart, but they're fixable now. And
mm,
uh, when you fix problems, it's like encouraging, like, oh, you can fix things and change them. You can implement things and grow. So from the mindset going forward, like I think I talked about at the very first, I was a very small-minded visionary person at the beginning. um, as the snowball grows, so does the amount of vision.
mm,
And so that's exciting to me. I am a visionary, and it's fun to see big picture and what's possible. And personality wise, I like to dream and shoot for big goals. And so that's where my mindset's at now.
mm. Are you working 5 days a week, Anthony?
I'm working for.
Four? Tell us more.
Yeah, it's been a full year now. So I went to 4-day work weeks. So we're going 4 10s.
You
Um,
you as well as the owner.
so me as the owner of 4-day work weeks. As of last June, July-ish, we went company wide to 4-day
Mm.
work weeks. So
What day of the week
um,
do you take off?
we all take off Fridays.
Okay.
Everyone's Friday. I will say sometimes we have overachievers and they come in on Friday anyway,
Okay.
but it's not required or encouraged.
Mm.
But
I,
it
re- I, re-
happens.
I remember when because it was before your team was doing it, you decided, you know what? I've got more of a team around me, more of the responsibility and to-do list is off my shoulders onto others. And wait a minute. Part of the reason we work so hard as business owners is to have some flexibility, is to have some freedom. What is the point in working our faces off like this if we're going to work 70 hours a week? Okay, and hopefully the money is good. It better be stinking good if you're working 70 hours a week. But even if it was good, it's still not healthy. It's still not sustainable to be working like that. You've put a lot of effort into, you know what? I'm going to try this out. I don't know if it's going to work or not. And then you realize, it can work, and this is really nice. And then you've incorporated it into the whole business. So I think that mindset, and also just as people are listening to this, dream a little bit. What does your ideal business look like? What, like, just don't get in the weeds of like, how do I do that? I don't have the money to do this, or I don't have the ability to hire so and so. Just dream a little bit, think through what the vision will look like in the future, and then work your way back and kind of say, all right, if that's where I'm going, what can I do this next quarter to be moving towards that?
Mhm.
And I think that's been something, whether you've known you were doing it or not, Anthony. That's something that you have been doing, is kind of, okay, if this is where I'm going, what can I do this next quarter? What can I implement here? What's the next puzzle piece that I can
Yeah.
implement?
Yeah, when you put out a 5-year goal, it just seems so far away, and it's
Yeah,
like I can, the goals you put out tend to be a little smaller than what you can actually achieve.
yeah,
Um, and I tend to make my 1-year goals maybe a little bigger than I can actually achieve. But if you just keep chipping away at it, pretty soon you've hit some pretty cool things.
excellent. So as we wrap up, what made you decide to join Remodelers VIP Club for 2023, sir?
Yeah, accountability, like we talked about, implementation. As we go through the things and focus on specific pillars, like you're talking about. Um, it gives you the accountability. It gives you people to talk to. It gives you different ideas. And so what happens in this group is you've got a variety of different businesses that have strengths in different areas. And so we can draw on each other. Someone may have better accounting and financial. I can draw from them. And so we can work together and make each other better. And the non-compete is you are happy to help each other.
Yeah.
And part of life and business is when you help other people. That's actually when you grow the most. So
Yeah, love it. Love it. That's a good place to end right there, folks. So, Anthony, I appreciate you sharing your story, giving a little insight into where you've been, where you are now, where you're going in the future. And I'm pretty certain that if a remodeler listened to that, there was something that sparked their interest or renewed something they know they need to implement, or gave them some clarity on, all right, I need to figure out what my next goal is and continue to make forward progress and consistent progress. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Yeah.
All
I'll
right.
give you one more plug before we go.
All right, hit it.
Man, if you're struggling at all or you don't know where to go, definitely check out the VIP, because you need people around you to help you get better, and the accountability, and Kyle to lead us. So check it out. Do it.
Sometimes you just feel like you're out there on your own and nobody else is going through it. That's what we hear consistently,
Yeah.
of going, it's such a reassuring, encouraging thing to realize, okay, I'm not the only one, and there's other people out there that have figured this part out, figured that part out, and I can do it. There's an energy there that you can just feed off of. Cool.
For sure.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. Thanks, Kyle.